So the first question that we have is actually for Nick, and it is, what is the most common energy efficiency opportunity you see in manufacturing? What is the biggest bang for buck opportunity?
Excellent question. Related to energy efficiency, the first thing that I always like to focus on and our kind of philosophy at SSC are those low cost, no cost improvements first. So although we of course want to identify and implement opportunities that are going to have great return on investment, there's no better return on investment compared to things that you don't actually have to spend a lot of money on other than maybe just adjusting your policies and procedures. So some common things that we see in manufacturing settings for that are really making sure that your equipment is turning down or only really working when your operations are working, or at least working to the capacity that your operations are as well. So if you have fluctuating production schedules based on customer demand, making sure that your supporting equipment is also adjusting in according to that as well as best you can is a really great best practice. One area in particular related to actual equipment and return on investment opportunities, I think everybody should really focus in on is their boilers. That's one that I see very commonly across all industries and sites that I go to. There's opportunities related to the low cost, no cost side of things related to preventative and maintenance and annual review of operational efficiencies, things like that that you can do to help kind of make sure your boiler is operating effectively over time. But more specifically related to upgrades, like a lot of boilers have just been in facilities for a very long time, and because they are still functioning, they don't always get a lot of focus. You know, they're in their mechanical rooms off to the side of the building. Only certain people really work on them or keep them and maintain them. And so it's not always a focus area for operations. However, it's a really big energy consumer, and it's an area where you can actually realize a lot of excellent savings. So upgrading your boiler, making sure it's working appropriately and efficiently is a very great place to start. And in addition, I always like to mention that if you're going to do a boiler replacement, you should really consider other energy efficiency technologies like a economizer to help preheat water. You can obtain some additional savings on top of just a general boiler upgrade. And if you do the economizer upgrade at the same time as your boiler, it's generally a lower cost compared to if you add on that economizer afterwards. And so that's a really big consideration. As I said earlier, I do a lot of this decarbonization assessments along with planning, and that's things that we like to keep in mind for folks is how can we stack certain opportunities together. And that's one of those examples where if you're planning to upgrade your boiler, let's also invest in an economizer at the same time to save money, minimize disruption, and then set us on a good path forward for minimizing emissions over time.
Yeah, Nick, that's excellent. And one thing to remember too is if anybody's got science-based targets, that scope 1 emissions are your biggest challenge. So that helps you zoom in on those, and there's ultimate ways to reduce those emissions in your operation. So excellent.